Yes, yes. Here in the UK, it's Friday night, and therefore it is time to get down to the chapel. I'm your host, Eno M Koney, broadcasting live on Twitch every Friday at 7 p.m. UK time from the SWDP chapel, home of the SWDP, the South Wales Discordian Press. The only press proudly not printing new Discordian writing since 2020. Because, who has the time to read writing? Besides, we're Discordians. We're prohibited from believing anything that we read. So, what's the point? But we have been here. We have been here since last August, running the services, the only Discordian services on the internet. AIK. If you know of any others, if you're watching asynchronously on the YouTubes, because we also obviously put these wonderful services out to YouTube channel so that people can enjoy a little slice of Friday evening wherever they are. I mean, it doesn't have to be evening. Friday is the day for Discord, isn't it? So it could be any time on a Friday. So if you want to tell me about stuff in the comments on YouTube, you're perfectly welcome to do so. One of the things you might tell me about is anyone else who's running a Discordian service, because boy is it lonely. Boy is it lonely being the only Discordian to be running a service on the old internet these days. Is because if I could watch someone else's Discordian service, you can just rip off my format. I don't care. Talking of which, well, first of all, before we go on to the thing, come on, click. There we go. That'll fine. So we're going to run on to the disclaimer. Oh, it's upside down. I could make a hilarious joke and read it in an Australian accent, or read it backwards. Fnord. Days these are, they weigh the just. Wrongs also probably are rights. Property, intellectual, associated. All society Discordian, the of brands are eschaton, the imminent eyes, and Eris hail. Coincidental entirely is untenable merely, or dead, alive, religions, other, to resemblance any home at, recreate, to attempt, not do. Sophists trained by performed are backflips logical and faith of leaps. Implied or offered is experience transcendent or enlightenment spiritual. No. Only purposes entertainment spiritual for are herein portrayed. Discordianism of act all. Disclaimer. So there we go. Yeah, I hope that's clear. If it's not clear, it's probably something to do with you. It's not my fault. Order of service. This is the bit you want to rip off. If you're going to do your own... Sorry, I've got to point the other way. Sorry, there we go. This is the order of service down there. Yeah, if you want to rip me off, then you could ape this format. It has undergone some changes over time, so this is kind of optimal. We have our sermon thirst sermon. Ugh, I don't even want to think about that would involve. No, we don't want that. Sermon first, which I have dubbed Deep Thoughts, because it's time for us to think deeply about modern Discordian issues. What are they, you might ask? Well, stay tuned and you're going to find out, because this is part of tonight's service. It's all very meta. Yeah, I'm breaking the fourth wall. I'm not. There isn't a fourth wall. The fourth wall has been entirely removed. I'm talking directly to you. Kanda makes it sound like a special feature, but in fact, and I've come up with a little wrinkle on that format tonight, but we'll get to that later. Eris, she's back this week. How does the goddess reveal herself to us in this week? The very week, the beginning of April 2 of 2, and indeed the month in which we will be performing a seasonal rollover. Yes, the season of Discord hath nearly come to an end, hath nearly run its course. So it's nearly time for a new saint to take up their position, but not quite right now. I am going to have to look into actually when it is, because it occurs to me that I've got a very busy month this month. Oh, it's so busy. you wouldn't even believe. And so the seasonal rollover might fall at a particularly impropitious time for me personally. More on which possibly later on. Reflective tarot, when we get to reflect upon the tarot for this week. And finally, of course, we end with the weekly sacrament. This is probably the most important part of a service. You don't really... In fact, when I'm pressed for time, I cut everything else. I maybe do a 2-minute thought and then straight into the sacrament. Yeah, all the other is just value added, baby. It's extra added value for you people at home because I love you. I'm just going to check this now because it hadn't occurred to me to wonder about this, but I will check because this is April 2 of 2 is when the seasonal service changes. So I'm just going to open up my seasonal slides, and it tells me May 27th. That's fine. The season of fusion and confusion begins in about 4 weeks on a Wednesday, well 3.5 weeks. But I will be around for that, so that's cool. So we're headed straight into confusion late in May, which sounds a lot like the truth to me. I don't know how it sounds to you, but there we go. Okay, so let's move straight on with our deep thoughts. And I've actually got slides for this one. For the past immeasurable amount of time, I've had no slides here, but tonight, oh Lord, tonight it's all different. For a change, there's sometimes I feel like I need slides and sometimes I feel that I don't. That's literally all there is to it. I'm sort of doing a walkthrough for you as well. If you want to do your own Discordian service, then I'm telling you, it's coming off the noggin. To be fair, the worship thing is probably going to help here. Yeah, because I was brought to consider, and I did foreshadow this last week, that I would come to consider the topic of worship. Right, because this is a service. It's a place where we come to worship in the name of the goddess. In fact, I think that one of the things is that in certain other religions, they're often mentioning, and it's interesting as well. It's interesting. I think that although it's cool to bang on about almighty deity, like, oh, almighty deity, you are so big, you are so very, very huge. We're all really impressed down here, let me tell you. It was a very clever marketing stunt to have the deity incarnate into human flesh and then to change the direction and say, oh, Pedro, oh, can you feel the love of Pedro? Can you feel the love tonight? Pedro is here. Oh, let us wash Pedro's feet. Remember Pedro. Pedro died for your laundry. Oh, you couldn't get that dry cleaning back. And he said, I will sacrifice my own life to get you your dry cleaning back. So that is what we owe. We owe Pedro a deep thanks, for we now have our polyester or other delicate fabric, silk. Let's go with silk. Our silk suit is back in our possession. We're too afraid to wear it in case we take it to the dry cleaner again and it gets you lose the ticket again. Because Pedro, he shouldn't have to hurl himself into that canyon repeatedly just so that you can get your dry cleaning back. But praise Pedro. Have you heard the word of Pedro? Have you let Pedro into your heart? You see, it's very easy once you've incarnated your deity into a sort of fleshy shape. It's much easier to just bang on about how terrific they are as a person. It's really hard, very abstract, to bang on about how some giant, shining, light-based energy being... that's the point. There's the three parts, isn't there? There's deity, Pedro, and then there's the sacred phantasm. Yeah, they don't mention the sacred phantasm much. Seen a bit iffy. He's a bit of a black sheep of the family. Or she. Or it. Yeah, it's not done, So yeah. So that's obviously a key thing. What we could really do with is news of whether, her ladyship has been incarnated in flesh at any point. Seems like something that she would probably enjoy doing or not enjoy doing, or do just to confuse people, do it twice at the same time. If you're a god, who says you can't be incarnated in flesh 2 times in the same era? I've seen that on television. deific beings multi-incarnating in flesh. Didn't make much sense. It was a bit of a boring show, but if you know what I'm talking about, you know it's possible. Well, it's possible. If we can think about it, it's possible. So we've thought about it, therefore it is possible. Dreadful, maybe. But the penny drops. Okay, so here we go. This is the first slide that I have for you in the deep thought tonight. So the first part here is, I just wanted to look up, what does worship mean? Because I was asking, what does worship mean? And I got a sort of pretty vanilla definition thrown back at me. The congregation, who's not here tonight, but that's fine. The congregation, being one person, doesn't have to turn up every week. I would prefer, really, if it was a shift thing where we had even up to 8 people in the congregation, and then they would come on a Friday evening, and then they wouldn't all come, but then it'd just make it easier. It's a team sport, I think, being the congregation. I don't know, because I'm not in the congregation. I'm the pontiff. And the pontiff, I just have to do it on my own, so that's fine. It's like one of those asymmetric horror games, like Dead by Daylight. Yeah, like except that the congregation stands an extremely high chance, the more players you have, the better, of defeating the monster, that being me, because I'm quite easy to derail. I'm quite easy to send off on a tangent. The only way that I don't get sent off on a tangent is if there's nobody there to do it for me, and sometimes not even then, as you shall see. But anyway, yes, so worship, the dictionary definition, the feeling or expression of reverence and adoration for a deity. Worship of the mother goddess. I'll come back to, I think this is problematic, I'll come back to one in a minute, but there's also a verb. Show reverence and adoration for a deity. The Maya built jungle pyramids to worship their gods. See, there a deity, deities, could be many, whatever it is. Yeah, so that's interesting. Okay, so the first part where it's a noun, say he worships her, that's a verb though. The feeling or worship of them. Oh right, so it's a named thing. Yeah, reverence and adoration as a thing towards a deity is known as worship of that deity. I guess that's fine. The only problem that I have with it, is reverence and adoration. Yeah, these are, as I believe I stated already, oh deity, you are so big, you are so very, very huge. There's something about it. Yeah, there's something very sycophantic about it. The idea that you're coming to a place, even in e-chapel such as this. And I think this is possibly what's undermined the entirety of Western religion. If I should be so bold, that the idea that you go into a building or you go to a place or you perform an act of some kind that is intended to express reverence and adoration for a deity is what makes us feel uncomfortable. I think that the idea that this is what worship is deeply uncomfortable to everyone. I don't think even people who claim to do it find it entirely comfortable. And if they do, and they're in a space with it, I think maybe they're mistaking what's happening, and I'll just detail how as we go into it. Because here's the thing, right? In this example sentence of the verb type, the Maya built jungle pyramids to worship their gods, right? So, apparently if you want to worship a Mayan god, you want to go build a pyramid, right? And the bigger the pyramid, the more worshipping you are, okay? There are problems with this, okay? So is pyramid building just a thing to do to venerate and worship Mayan gods? Is that the case there? Is that what we're saying? And if so, how does that work? Yeah? I'm really reverent and adoring the crap out of you to be put in these spots, and what's that? The drainage isn't good in that corner, and you're going to need to move the bricks. Okay, that's fine. I can see one of them sinking already. It's a bit of pain in the butt. I was just trying to worship. Is the drainage, is the digging of the foundation drainage, is that also, it does count? But what if I build a house And that also needs drainage. Does it count? It doesn't count then. Only if I'm building the pyramid. Do you know what I mean? It's a complicated situation. And of course, we don't do that anymore. The number of pyramids... Well, the number of pyramids in the world is pretty much constant. It might go down a bit occasionally. Because we just don't build new ones, do we? We gave it up a long time ago. Right, still building pyramids, Bob? Yeah, I'm still building pyramids. Are you really? No. No, I'd like to, but I just... does that make us lesser because we don't go around building pyramids? And when somebody puts up, I'm going to go into an area that I possibly shouldn't go into, but I can't think of a word for these many and manifold projects other than a mighty erection. We put one of those up. Yeah. Is that now, and is that by default an act of worship? What if the person who's doing it is an agnostic? Here is my mighty erection, but I'm not sure whether any gods exist or not. I mean, an atheist, that's pretty good. They're saying, well, this is an engineering project. It's not some metaphysical tombola of adoration and what have you. Yeah, no, that's not. No, but if you are agnostic, well, spiritual, I believe in something, I'm not sure what it is, is that what happens then? It just... Yeah, it seems to me that just saying, okay, go and build a pyramid over there, you'll be worshipping this god or that god, or, go and do whatever, say this mantra, pass beads through your fingers, give up smoking for 40 days and 40 nights, any of these acts that are ordained as worship. Yeah, some other... Now, Eastern religion, when you do a thing like doing a mantra and counting up and trying to do 10,000 of them, that kind of act, yeah, is seen as just you do it and you use it. It's actually a deeply mystic process. Yeah, you're doing something that's a sort of ascetic process. You're making yourself suffer or committing to some uncomfortable thing, doing some uncomfortable thing, and you're hoping that some wisdom will fall from the stars because of it. I should probably mention at this stage, as you probably noticed, no 23 this week. We got a packed show as we already into this. So yeah, let's move further east or deeper east. I don't know what you'd say, but I'm going to talk to you about Shaktipat. And if you know what Shaktipat is, maybe you're a big Shaktipat enjoyer. Maybe you're a fan. You're there watching this service go, finally, we're going to talk about Shaktipat. And if you don't know what it is, you're like, why did you just put 3 dots there? What is that all about? Well, it's sensibly to get the word. I want that word in there, Shaktipat. You're going to have it there in your head just by itself, free of context, unless you already know what it means, in which case you don't need the 3 dots. You don't need an X file. It says Shaktipat refers in Hinduism to the transmission or conferring of spiritual energy upon one person by another, or directly from the deity. And I would go back a long way on this. There's a lot of stuff in Eastern philosophy about when you say someone is a guru, that doesn't mean that they are a thing, that guru is not really a thing. Guru is sometimes viewed as a sort of it's a wave and a particle at the same time. It's a kind of an energy, and a guru can easily tap into the guru energy, and then they can transmit that guru energy on a temporary basis to other people. It's kind of spiritual riz, I guess you would probably say. Yes, that's an excellent description, I guess. You get, or a buzz rather than a riz, strictly speaking. You don't get a buzz of Shaktipat and then you could go, hey baby, how you doing, and all of that kind of stuff. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about buzz, spiritual buzz. So the Shaktipat is that's the point when it says or directly from the deity. That's kind of an explanation, because the idea is that you meet a guru, like a human guru, and they have the spiritual energy, but they are the originator of it. Are they? Well, then you're saying they're a god. But no, what you say is that they can just go to the deity and tap them up for a bit of spiritual energy and then pass it on to people that they meet. It's like, deity gave me this basket of Shaktapat rolls. I'm just going around the community handing them out, eating one myself, of course. Yum yum. Yeah, that's the idea, right? And this whole notion, this whole notion of a kind of a spiritual buzz that a person can access and maybe pass around among fellow people, that is an important notion when you come to think of what worship is and how worship can come to be. Because in the West, we do think of it like, of basically as bootlicking. Let's get a deity, right? We're going to lick their boots till they shine. And that is going to confer upon us. It's almost like there is a group of people that maybe were, in a control trip, and they wanted to put in people's heads, that the correct act is subservience, and that for your subservience you would be rewarded. It's almost like they wanted to think that, so they dressed it up. They dressed it up in their clothes of spirituality. And so what if there was a spiritual... Maybe you don't want to... Maybe you think that all men are created equal. You're wrong, of course, but you think that. Yeah? But now think of maybe we're not as equal. Maybe there's a spiritual entity that is higher than us. And the correct response to that is to get down on your knees and lick those boots, And the reason that maybe somebody would think that is because if you've done it for a spiritual entity, who is of dubious tangibility, that getting you to do it, get in the habit, like once you're in the habit of obeying, even if you're obeying like a fetish, essentially, I went there, that you would also want to obey a person, or you could be manipulated into the same behaviours when it comes to a person. And that's universal. That's not just in the West, not in the East. The thing about the Eastern religion type things, Hinduism in this case, is that they grew beyond that specific idea. They do incorporate that, I'm pretty sure, that there is an idea of, oh my gosh, like being starstruck, seeing a celebrity, oh my god, it's someone blue with 4 arms, oh wow, and I'm just a farmer from somewhere. That's absolutely part of it, but this is also part of it. This sort of mysticism, this idea, of actually, there being a way of tapping into deities. It's very popular in role-playing systems, the idea that clerics tap into the god. And, obviously also Greek myth is full of... So we have had it. Western tradition has had this idea of gods conferring favour, but always in the West with this idea of you toadying down to them. And if we mix instead the idea that maybe on a different level, that we change worship to say that worship is the practice of developing a conduit between an individual and a god vibe. So when we say worship of the mother goddess, it means that we are attempting to develop a conduit between us and the mother goddess energy, whatever that is, and we're trying to communicate. It's mysticism, we just want to feel what the feeling is in that, right? And then the verb then becomes perform an action or sequence of actions aimed at developing a conduit between an individual and a god vibe. It makes more sense that the Maya built jungle pyramids to worship their gods. That is, they believed that if they built the pyramids, they would have a direct line to the energy, the spiritual energy that could lift us up of their gods, that it would be easier to... And this is essentially a heart... I mean, that's not Western, it's not Eastern, it's South American, it's an ancient world kind of idea, but this idea that there is a reservoir of spiritual energy that maybe transmits at a series of different frequencies, and that we as people can tap into those frequencies, but we need to do a certain set of things or set something in motion in order to access them at all. And therefore we have, I myself, the SWTP, we have the thing, where we name each month. Give it its own name, although this is the weirdest one because Mate Pearl just keeps on rocking. And to be honest, the sense of continuity is absolute. I think of the beginning of April, and I just feel like I'm still on a roller coaster that's running all the way to the end of April. Yeah, and I can feel no division in that. So that has been quite the flow that has come upon us there. So April just keeps on rocking. Okay, and April has to happen for the rest of the universe to happen. We're in a cosmic navel here of April. We're right in the middle of a bunch of stuff, and what things went into April, they will be transformed, and when they come out of April, that is the way they will be for a long time thereafter. That's the energy that we have here. That is essentially an act of worship. That is, we've built a conduit to the goddess. She has told us that goddess energy has told us that's what the month is called, and indeed that is how that works. Yeah, so all the little things that we do here in the SWDP and for the Discordianism service, this very act is a way to break open, hey, let's call it a third eye. We steal lots of things. Yeah, we've got a sacrament, that's from one place. The idea of having a third eye, that's just another kind of concept. Yeah, and that's one of the things that is interesting. Okay, that all spiritual paths, essentially, if you break down the idea that there's much difference, that the only difference is the vibe that comes back when you tap into the vibe. Yeah, and it's different type of, because you have different flavors. Yeah, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry. Yeah, you can have. That's what. Essentially, what spiritual flavor is your favorite? Do you like chocolate? Do you like vanilla? Do you like strawberry? I'm gonna say, chocolate. I think that's very popular with a lot of people around the world. But chocolate is very selfish. Chocolate doesn't want you to try any vanilla, and it doesn't want you to try any strawberry. It just wants to be chocolate. If you get where I'm coming from. Whereas, vanilla and strawberry, I think that at least one of those. I mean, strawberry's kind of an acquired taste, and vanilla's kind of easygoing. Yeah. Okay, so we've now decided that all the spiritual vibes are actually sympathetic to flavours as if it was ice cream, yeah? I mean, that's not true, but it is maybe helpful. So there we go. But that's the point, yeah? So really, what we're saying, and this is because I was thinking, should I be worshipping more? Am I worshipping enough? What even, and then it came to me, what is worship? Because I wanted to, I had this question and I wanted to ask it and I wanted to explore it. And upon my meditation, this is what I came up with. That essentially, it will help me maybe to tap in more and to get more of the spiritual energy if I know what the hell I'm doing or how I'm doing it. And so that is what I've come up with. You could take it, you can leave it, you can agree with it, you could disagree with it. But the point is that this does tell you, that it's probably a bad idea, okay, for a bunch of people all to follow the same actions or sequence of actions, rituals, essentially, in order for them all to create the same conduit. Because how you establish that conduit is going to vary from individual to individual, okay? And therefore getting into a thing where it's like, here's an instruction book, just do these things, you'll be grand, that probably doesn't help, right? Probably doesn't help. And who knows if you get in touch with the right vibe. Yeah? You don't know that's what... It's going to be instinctual. And I think that's it. I think people are afraid of instincts. Their own instincts. And opening up themselves. Yeah? And finding out how they want to take from that energy. Yeah? And considering deeply how that is supposed to work. So that's the deep thought for this week. It's been particularly deep and thinky, I think, but that's the idea. Is this right? Have I got a right thing here where we say, I think it gets sticky then because you get into areas like ethics and things like that. I think obviously there are some basic ground rules on this idea, which would be that whatever you do has to cause, as they say in the classic doctors thing, first do no harm. Yeah. I'm saying that there's probably good vibes and there's probably bad vibes. And, who knows what people have got an appetite for, and you got to, you probably got to discover each person probably has a path that goes to each one. There's that whole thing about the wolves and which one you feed. Yeah, that's probably a reflection of that. It's like everything, all the spiritual wisdom, all of that is reflections of something that we kind of intuit. No, in a Gnostic way, you know, we inside, we have these, you know, they called it in philosophy a priori knowledge. Like things you know, but you don't know you know them because you've never consciously looked at them. Well, they do seem to exist, you know. There are things that we know just instinctively. Death appears to be one of those. Like nobody, there's not much I discovered suddenly that I wasn't going to live forever trauma in the world, because people seem to instinctively know that they're going to die. Even from when they're born, even from when they understand death as a thing that will come, as they say, to us all. How does that work? A priori knowledge. Jung had some ideas. They were wacky ideas, but we still love them. So there we go. Yeah, conduits. Conduits to God vibes. Kanda. One of my favourite. Actually, I mean, it's not my favourite. In fact, it's kind of here, and this probably explains a lot. It's kind of here because it seems inappropriate not to offer a forum. Now, of course, if you're asynchronous, an asynchronous brethren, sister, or one who doesn't like to be pigeonholed, and you're taking this stuff in, yeah, then it seems appropriate for me to offer a forum for you to question what the pontiff has said. In fact, what I discovered a few weeks ago is that if there is a brethren or sister in the house, it is their duty to derail me. There isn't tonight, so you've got the full thing if you're watching this asynchronously, which is the only way that you would be watching it. But if you're here synchronously, so you could get into the chatter dome, then your job is to throw virtual tomatoes at me until I get distracted and talk about whatever you want to set the agenda as. So that has in fact undermined the point of Kandar being the place for you to feed back to me. That's not practical, because that's the whole thing now. Anytime I'm doing something, it's, you know, your duty to try and get me to do something else, whatever you want to do. As pontiff, I am also puppet. As magician, I am also robot. Tonight I'm allowed to go full magician, ironically, because I'm all by my lonesome in the synchronous realm. But asynchronously, I know that there are people who are in for the service. Yeah, and I suddenly realised that the purpose of Kandar is not for the congregation to ask me questions, which I then have to do like a post bag or whatever it is, but a chance also, you can flip the script here. I'm going to flip the script, and it's time for me to ask questions of you. I don't have any this week. No, I have no questions this week. Actually, I do have one, and it is an interesting. Right, I've got a couple. Okay. Question A. Do you like horror movies? Question 2. If you don't, whether you do or you don't, when were you born? You could be vague as you like, but just as long as it's a general idea. And then also, what is your favourite movie? Which the thing about it is, and this is an excellent liminal space. If we had a chat going on here, it would be stupid to answer the question. You know, if we had a lot of people, if you had 20 or 30 people all shouting out, belting out what their favourite movie was, would make no sense whatsoever. But there is a way in which it's a silly question what your favourite movie is, because you're saying, well, what movie do you think is deserving of honour beyond literally every other movie ever made? Which is like, whatever movie you pick, you're going to have the wrong answer. So if you look at it on that context, like actually as if I'm asking you, what is your favourite movie, in the sense of which movie do you regard higher than every other movie that ever existed ever? Well, that's terrible. That's what a bad question. But if I ask you on a personal level, oh my gosh, I've frozeled. Wow! 1,744 frames dropped. What is happening tonight? What is going on with this world? It's terrible. I'll repeat what I just said. So if I'm asking you as a personal question, what is your favourite movie? Well, then it doesn't matter that you've excluded some excellent movies by picking one movie. The point is it's your favourite movie, and that is why. That is why you're answering the question. I think when people ask other people, what is your favourite movie, that is the intention. 99% of the time. They're not actually trying to determine which is the best movie in the universe, although that is the way that the question is usually understood by the other person. No, the point of it is to say, what is your favourite movie? We know that there will be better movies that you've left out, because narrowing it all down to one single movie is a ridiculous task. It's apples and oranges. How can you possibly have a single favourite movie? Yeah? And people like more manageable ones, like what's your favourite movie in the MCU, But then, of course, that does become a trivia thing of like a war of, well, my movie's better than your movie. But if you just say, like, of all movies in the history of mankind, which one is your favourite one? The necessary ridiculousness of tying that down to an answer gives you some, gives the question some weight. Okay, so those are the questions I'm going to ask. If you are watching asynchronously on the old YouTubes, feel free to drop me a line with answers to any or all of the questions that I have just asked. I'd be interested to know your thoughts, and I will come up with something slightly less banal for the next time we're sat here. On which point, before we go on, public service announcement. I don't know what's going to happen next Friday. Even the Fridays prior to this one, where I've only been able to hop on in the morning and do 5 minutes. Yeah, I've been at least here and able to do 5 minutes and do the sacrament and what have you. Next Friday, all of that will be out of my hands. I won't be anywhere near the computer. It's one of the few times in the year when that is going to happen. So there may not be anything next Friday. Terrible news. But if there can be something, there will be something. Maybe Eris will find a way. Hail Eris. We all know. Okay, so that was the first of the new format calendar, which starts with a whimper, not with a bang. I don't want a fanfare. I'm just like saying that's how it's going to be now. I'm going to be asking the questions, and the questions are going to be probably more interesting than this week's question. But I did come up with that because of the sort of nature of the what's your favourite movie question being deeper than I think people often give it credit for. So I thought I wanted to acknowledge that. Yes, it's time. Time for the face of Eris. And I have even remembered to do the subtitle there. What did you expect? What did you expect? And that is because the face of Eris this week is hopes and dreams and thoughts and prayers. Yes, indeed, there is the image. Always, of course, I'm using a public domain a public domain image library, and putting in a keyword, which, of course, in this case, as you can probably tell from the delightful sun with lens flare shining through the trees, that is a sort of image that somebody's decided to tag hope. Although I think that you probably, if you're going to give notes, then that should be the forest of despair, right, that we're in. But the forest actually looks pretty bucolic. Looks like a nice place to be hanging out. Like, so you're supposed to be in the forest of despair, and that I think that light is not supposed to be quite as intense as it is. This is like the kind of overwhelming hope, beautiful, buoyant, joyous hope that comes to you when you weren't particularly inconvenienced or in a place where such hope was necessary. I don't know, just the way it appeared to me. So there we go. Right, so so this is the point. If we've in this service already, we've had things where you say, what's your favourite movie? That is a banal way of asking you to picture or identify something that it's actually pretty hard to tie down. Yeah, so there's that. And before that, saying worship. What is worship? How do we worship? What worship? Why do we not like to worship? Why do we feel uncomfortable worshipping? How could we feel more comfortable? Have we got the right end of the stick about worship? It's a knotty and complex problem, especially in modern times. The sort of vanilla explanation of what worship even is does not satisfy, and I've tried to provide in my own small way an alternative that may allow you to tap into something. Because honestly, the idea that go on, Squire, worship me, and after you die, I'll toss you a tenner. You know, it kind of seems the Western vanilla. You know, worship Pedro, and he will let you into the land of Pedro via his heart, the heart of Pedro. Yeah, that whole part just feels kind of squalid. It's an impoverished view of a spiritual nexus that may exist, you know, if not tangibly, then accessibly throughout the universe. And indeed, as Moore states in his Bumper Book of Magic, magic originates inside our mind space. It's not for the external world, or if it does manifest in the external world, it is only through us accessing and tapping into it up here in the receiver, cosmic receiver that we have inside this round piece of bone up here. Yeah, that's really what it is. And again, when we say hope, I hope this happens. I hope it's not sunny, or I hope it is sunny on Wednesday. Yeah, people say that's a casual use of the word hope in its intended environment. Very, again, impoverished, vanilla. When you're talking about grand hope, when you say they have seen hope, yeah, you don't mean the same hope that you mean when you say that you hope that it's fish and chips for tea tonight. They're two completely different concepts. Yeah, but the hope that we're talking about, sun through the trees hope, that hope, can you picture it? Because I find it very difficult. So I'm thinking that maybe you find it difficult too. Can you even dream of hope? I mean, the thing about hope is, you know, it's supposed to come to us, right? The less desperate our situation is to begin with, the more banal the things we hope for should be. Naturally. You know, I'm quite comfy, so I hope long should it continue, because this too shall pass. Yeah, I'm quite comfy, I'm quite happy. You can watch things passing every day. I'm loving being a dad, you know. I got my boy. He's going to be 9 in a few weeks. That means I've been a dad for 9 years. Yeah, and I'm going to be a dad for 9 years more. So I'm exactly halfway. I'm halfway through dad. Because when I get to the other end, I'll still be a dad. We have reassured him many times, you're not getting rid of us now, chum. We're stuck with you for life, dude. I'm always going to be your dad. But the thing is, always being someone's dad when they reach the age of majority, when you're a dad of a 25-year-old, it's very different to being a dad of a 9-year-old. You know, and not all of it's bad, not all of it's good, every situation, but it does say things are going to change. You know, and so if you want to dream of hope, the only way that I guess you could get a real handle on it is if your life is absolutely in the gutter. Only people, and I don't know, I mean, to be fair, my wife had some hard times, so maybe I'll ask her at some point, you know, when you were in those dire straits, how was hope? How did hope treat you back then? I think I know what she's going to answer, and for those of us that are optimistic and positive of bent, I have some probably bad news, but we'll see. Think of hopes, and this is what we've been doing. We're thinking, right? The point is, hope rhymes with soap, and I'm not just saying that because I want this to be a show for kindergartners. Oh no, I'm saying it because, just like soap, it is pretty slippery. Yeah, the more that we're now concentrated on homing in on it, what is the essence of hope? And you can say, well, it's just wishing things were better than they were. But then you go, well, better how? You know, and if someone's got their boot on your neck, then you'll be like, I hope that this boot gets taken off my neck. And it's pretty powerful and pretty straightforward. If you are oppressed and you hope to not be oppressed anymore, then that's pretty clear cut, right? But when you do look at the top, hopes and dreams and thoughts and prayers, yeah, okay, so is it, the fate of those who are reasonably satisfied to dream no more, to hope no more? Is it inappropriate to hope for anything when we already have so much? Difficult. There's the prayer, power of prayer, an act of worship. One of the key acts of worship that I guess makes people feel uncomfortable about worship, because it is the very essence in its seeming of the whole impoverished, if you kiss my boot now, I will toss you a tenner after you're dead dynamic. Yeah? For what are we to pray for? There are even large screeds of dogma in certain quarters about how you shouldn't petition during prayer. That is, you should not say, I hope my little Johnny gets an A+ in his maths exam, dear deity, in the grace of Pedro and the sacred phantasm, please let Johnny do well in his exam. You're not supposed to do that, because it is not in deity's gift to make that happen which cannot happen, or whatever it is. What will be fate, blah blah blah. Okay, weave of the universe. Okay, so if Johnny gets D, that's just because that was what was supposed to happen. Yeah, this is the best of all possible worlds. When people die of aneurysms or get pointless cancers that kill them, that's what was supposed to happen. That was their journey. Seems like maybe not. And of course, we here at the SWDP and any Discordian faction will say, well, no, there's a direct line here. Eris comes to us and says there is ultimate cosmic chaos. We are free because chaos is what there is. But obviously with chaos, you take, to heart the idea of chaos. And Eris is not responsible for the chaos in the sense of she created it. Nobody created the chaos. The chaos just is. But as a deity, she's saying, I can sort of see it better than you can as a goddess. And trust me, you don't want to mess with the chaos. But it does mean that you can't. There's no point. Eris is essentially in her message, which is in one of the slides at the beginning of the service. She's saying you are free because you are being told that you are not free by others of your ilk. And I'm just here to say, no, man, it's chaos. You are totally free. But don't screw it up for anyone else, all right? Because that's not cool. That's not cool. We've all got to live with the chaos. So why do you want to make other people? Why do you want to harsh other people's mellow, man? What's going on? So yeah, that's how it is. She's not. So what's the point of praying to her as well? She'd be like, why are you praying to me? I can't do anything about the chaos. I just came to tell you I can see the chaos from the point of view of a multiversal deific being, and I can tell you it looks no better from where I am than it probably does from where you are. You're the ones that are delusional that you can control it. You can't control it. The God vibes are all quite specific. Well, maybe some of them are a little, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. I'll stand between the chaos and you. But the point about it is that I don't believe that's true. I think we all have to cope with the chaos. And I think that the problem with you is your view as tiny little meat sacks is so restricted and so concerned with day-to-day survival that you cannot quite perceive that great cosmic, unknowable, chaotic energy that powers all things and all not things. And I'm just here to tell you, don't buy the hype. Don't buy the hype. And don't piss on anyone else's chips or down anyone's back and tell them it's raining. Don't do those antisocial things, man, because it's chaos. Ultimately, it will gain you nothing. So there we go. So there's no point praying to her. So I think prayer is difficult, and praying for hope as well. I mean, if you're in a position to have to pray for hope, as we've already discussed, you're probably in a bad way. So is it hope or is it cope? Does hope allow you to cope? And is that good or is that bad? Cope, as there was a lyric in an Arrested Development song once. It said that you don't want to cope. Like, cope is not change. And if you're in a position of having to cope with something, you should really be trying to change it. You should be acting, which is, a point to consider. I would not say that it is an ultimate wisdom, but it is definitely a point to consider. Hope is an opiate. While you are being oppressed, if you hope, you're still being oppressed. But maybe you won't. Well, that's the whole thing with that bloody Hunger Games, isn't it? Someone making the adroit point that, if you drip feed people hope, then they won't act up against you. And then that doesn't work in the story. Well, pulling it out of the seat of your pants. What are you going to do? So, in the end, are we going to say nope to hope? I guess, to be fair, if we are in a position where we don't really have much need to hope, then maybe we should just, rather than just say, no, I reject hope, you just like, I don't need hope at the moment. Everything's okay. I mean, there's still things that I can hope for. I tend to put all of my hope coins, all the mental reservation I have for hope is that someday people will be able to tell when an obvious liar is lying to them. I really hope that. Just for the human race as a whole. Because honestly, there's nothing more depressing than living in a state where essentially the past, people believed in smoke and mirrors. They believed in deceiving people. Deceit. Whatever happened to deceit? Now they just lie to your face. And there are some people who are just like, but that's a lie. But then there are other people who are like, oh no, I bought into this guy's deal. Yeah? I've bought into the vibe that he's putting out. So despite the fact that it's an easily verifiable or deniable lie, I am just going to be like listening to it and taking its hook, line and sinker and just like accepting it on face value, despite the fact that in 5 minutes it becomes very apparent that it's not true. But then when it's not true, I will say, yeah, but you've just proved that it's not true out of some malicious desire to see failure on the part of a persistent liar and con artist who is trying to do all of us harm, including me. But I have bought into their shtick, so I'm going to say that that's not happening. See, now I'm lying to you and to myself. Lies, we love them. I just, when can we have a world where that isn't the case by default for large numbers of people anymore? Please. That's what I reserve my hope for. It's not even for me, for something for me. I already have all that. When somebody lies to me, I tend to be able to tell. And do I bother to pass it on? I find I'm so tired. I'm just so tired, boss. So yeah, no, I don't always. Let's do some reflective tarot. Yes, spin the tombola of fate and see what the tiny pasteboard has for us today. As you know, before the show, I shuffle 5 times. I cut the deck so that the card that is for us this week has risen to the top of the pile, and now all of us are going to find out what it is at the same time. What is this week's reflective tarot card? It is upside down. I don't do reversals, but we're the 8 of Swords. The 8 of Swords. Well, now, water. That is quite different. That's not a card I see very often at all under any circumstances, but we got it here with us tonight. So obviously we'll start with the easy part. There's only 4 vibes in the pasteboard deck, and this is the sword vibe, the vibe of air, also aka known as the vibe of bullshit. Swords represent the bullshit that assails our sensory world on a day-to-day basis. Just those little things that are thrown at us. Little air knives coming through the air to disturb the peace of our mind and make us feel better. Or indeed, the positive side on the sword energy is that it's also those little mental, intellectual amuse-bouches, like little things that play on our mind, not deeply, not passionately, but just kind of whimsies, if you will. Intellectual whimsies. They also count as sword type phenomena. And so then we come to the 8. The 8 is a number of macro stability. Okay, so when you get to 9 and 10, 10 is the number of completion. The macro is wholly complete. The individual's person is filled at that time with whichever energy it is. So the 10 of Swords, for example, is a very depressing looking card, but it essentially means case closed. You think you've got to think about it, you don't got to think about it, it's over, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into 10 right now, I'm just saying that's what it is. And then you have the 9, and the 9 is like that on the brink. It's the card of abundance, the number of abundance. Yeah, so you've got an abundance of thing. Okay, so that's interesting, depending on where you're at. But the 8 is a sort of reflection. There's the micro stability number, which is 4, half of 8. Yeah, and the macro abundance number 8 is like the 4, but on a much grander scale. So when you have a 4, it's just small victories, small things, small expressions of the vibe. Yeah, but the 8, on the other hand, is about, it's not abundance because that's the next number, but it's like it's apparent, it's oozing. The world is filled with this vibe, but it might not necessarily be something for you right now. As you can see here, we have the sleeping bug, sleeping amongst in a field surrounded by swords, and that's the point. It's kind of like wandering around, and these energies are here and there, the vibes are here and there, things are being said, there's gossip, there's puzzles, there's riddles, there's all sorts of this and that, but she's got a sleeping mask on, and that's the point. Blindfold, essentially. And it's this idea of they're just here, but they're out of view because they've become so systematized, these little bits and bobs of sword, air, intellectual stuff to deal with. I mean, that's the point. Whereas you have the other intellectual, which is wands, which is embraceable, intellectual passion of the mind, something that you can embrace, that can ignite you, that is all like that. This is more like stuff that has to be dealt with the earth. And so that can include a lot of, as I said, bullshit, but it can also encompass things that, crosswords, they're quite airy, Sudoku, maths problems, logic games, all the domain of the air problem. So the energy here is like that all of those things, those kind of little mental knots and puzzles and tricks are around, but we can choose not to look at them and just be aware that they're there. We can snuggle in amongst them, and we just got to be careful not to get cut. So there we go. That's the 8 of Swords. A fascinating card for us to have, to reflect about. Master Pickles, a new member of the congregation, has stepped forth. Wow, that's a comment and a half. We have to read it, of course. Hello, Mr. One Monkey. Long time no see. Glad to see you streaming again. Kind of busy right now, so I can't chat. Okay, could have fooled me. I wanted to say that Choggy and Chongpa made a very similar point about hope, how it's indicative of our unhappiness with how things are now and how we continue to hope to fix them by changing external factors. And then enlightenment is actually a complete acceptance of our hopelessness. Anyway, just thought it was interesting. I'll continue listening on in the background. Keep up the good work. I had to split the message in two because of the 500 character limit. Thank you very much, Master Pickles. Yes, every Friday from 7 p.m. till probably about, well, nowish, to be honest. We're going to be moving towards the end very shortly. It is the Discordian service. And in fact, last week I had a very interesting time. We had this season's Saints Day, who was an enjoyer. Saint Gaffric the Enjoyer, giving us the enjoyment vibe, and Saint Gaffric transmitted through the ether that the way that we should enjoy is to play a game, and I played a video game here on Twitch for a little while, and that's when I discovered I don't really like playing video games on Twitch. Because I'm always like, well, am I playing the game? Am I doing the stream? What am I keeping an eye on? Even when no one's here and I'm not playing a game, doing the service, I can still do the service. I can put as much energy into it as I wish, or don't wish. Yeah, I do wish on a general, because that's part of it. Me doing the service is, as we discussed earlier in this service, an act of worship. Yeah. And therefore I should put my energy into it. But when I'm playing a game, it's like, well, when I want to play a game and I'm not on stream, I want to play the game. But if I do that when I'm on stream, then why if someone comes into the stream? Then you're like, oh, you just caught me gaming. I don't even know if I want to speak to you now. I don't disagree that there is a mind space for people who stream games, where they're sort of playing the game, but they're also waiting for people to come in and comment and do that. I'm not very comfortable with that mindset. In fact, the only way that I could have achieved it successfully was when my wife was sitting next to me heckling me, because that kind of grounded the experience, you know. We couldn't really find a technical way to make that the whole experience for everyone, because she didn't want to play the game with me. So miking up someone who's not playing the game, particularly if you're streaming off a console, very, very difficult. And if you're streaming off a PC, very, very uncomfortable for two people to sit. It was all a whole thing. But yeah, so I streamed these services because I can do the streaming of the service. And if people come in, as I have pointed out, as the pontiff, as the pastor of the SWDP, and as we have worked out, it is the job of the Discordians in the Chatterdome to put me off beam. If they can, or if they feel, or will just say whatever they feel, really, and have me respond to it. That's part of the energy. It's actually pure Twitch energy, isn't it? I think that's what people find. I remember a lot of people who do just chatting streams where they talk about, I was doing a just chatting stream and I found it was quite good, actually. That's what it is. It's that idea that either you have something to say and then people can listen to it. Obviously, this will go out, not obviously, but as a matter of fact, this goes out on YouTube afterwards. I send it over there and it's for people to enjoy asynchronously. But also, if there's somebody there at the time, very welcome. Very welcome. That's kind of the point, and that's kind of a vibe that we can build. And I have a sometimes regular viewer. They regularly come back, is what I mean. They're not always regularly here, but when they are here, they're really here, and they are my congregation, and they do the job excellently. And I hope that in time, maybe there are more congregants to come in and take control of the vibe, because that's really then. I think I probably will get more out of that than... delivering the thing gives me a certain amount of, well, I've done that and that was good. But having the vibe of everybody piling in and just dealing with what's coming off, that's a different kind of thing. It's got to be very careful, though. Can't turn into a performance. Still has to, at some level, be the Discordian service, because that's what it's here. And people who watch asynchronously, I think they want the service. I've certainly got more... Yes, for 5 minutes I had 23 subscribers on YouTube. Then I had 24 and now I've got 25. So 23 didn't last very long. I had it in a number of subscribers. It's not too much to ask that maybe for a month or so I could stick on 23 subscribers. But apparently it was too much to ask. So my subscriber count on YouTube just grows from time to time as more and more wandering Discordians wander in and think, yeah, this is cool. I hope that's what they're thinking anyway. If you're a Discordian watching this out of sync and you have thoughts, please Kandar, that's what it's all about. The post bag, you can tell me, and then I can ask you, and it's all a thing. But right now, it is time. It is time for the conclusion of the service with, of course, the weekly sacrament, the stone upon which the Discordian service rests. For it is written in the Principia Discordia that on a Friday we Discordians should go off and joyously partake of a hot dog, no bun. And of course, as we are fully aware, being the magpies of spirituality that we are here at the SWDP, we take hot dog to be a metaphor for any given consumable that can be enjoyed. You know, you can pick your own consumable. It can be a solid, it can be a liquid, it can even be a gas. But it's sure to be a gas, to use some like 1950s terminology. What a swell party this is. But you at this point get your consumable ready. I have a small red tube because it's an amusing metaphor for indeed a hot dog, no bun. And then of course we say the traditional SWTP mantra, I could not find a hot dog, not even with a bun. So I consume this random consumable. Because devotion comes with fun. Hail Eris. And having had worship, and that is, of course, the key. And catmatic, because Discordian doesn't have dogma, it has catma. So this is the catmatic direction to consume the consumable, the hot dog, on a Friday, joyously. Whatever you consume, you should do it joyously. I wonder if were that consumable to be heavy in the wasabi or other spice, whether that would provoke that moment. I think you're really supposed to, whatever it is, you're really supposed to savour the taste of whatever it is. And that is how we tap into the vibe via those sort of olfactory senses. That's what it's meant. That olfactory experience and mouth feel and all that, that's your conduit, and you should really consider that your sort of gustatory meditation. So that is the spirit in which we approach the weekly sacrament from now on. But now it is done. It is done. Brethren and sistren, those who do not like to be pigeonholed, we have come to the end of another Friday service. Quite a good one. Good in the way of me getting through the material. So not good in the way of the congregation disrupting when I was doing it. But that's the point. These are we have here the sacred cow, order in chaos, chaos in order. And indeed this was a chaos in order week. I got to get through it, but I'm trying to deliver get those chaotic dominoes falling in the mind that way. And in the other side, I get the message through, but I have to fight my way through all the chaos. So it is very much the sacred cow mirrors the two ways that a Friday service can go. It's either ordered, but with the hint of chaos, or chaotic with clawing back some order. And that is their thing. The paradox, how whatever you attempt to achieve, the opposite is also generated. That's a thing that we obviously understand here at the SWTP, and hopefully should, as a good Discordian. A good Discordian, you see, that's the point. Enabling Discordian is good. A practiced, an experienced Discordian. Imagine that. Imagine that, rather than say that someone is a good this or that, or a bad this is that, or you can have inexperienced or experienced, and that's all there is to it. You've either been trying to wrap your head around this stuff for a long time, or a short time. And probably the only way that you end up in a sort of unhelpful cul-de-sac is if your idea of practicing Discordianism is to stuff post right-wing memes into Discordian groups. If you are in that mind space, then I have to tell you you've missed some lessons, or you've missed some opportunities for contemplation. You are not practiced, and in addition, at this stage I would have to admonish you that you are not practicing. You're not a I mean, that's really weird when you say, I am a practicing this, that or the other. They mean, or they think they mean, practice in the sense of to do the thing. But they actually mean practice as in to attempt to master the thing. Maybe they mean it in both senses. In fact, maybe we do. Maybe that is what it's all about. We are practicing in the sense that we're doing it, but we're also trying to grasp a little bit more meaning and wisdom by our acts of worship, by building our connection to the Erisian energy of the universe. Wow. There we are. That's a very clear and therefore probably wholly inaccurate description of what it is we are doing. And so I will say to you, Hail Eris, all hail Discordia, and I will see you, if not before, in 2 weeks in this very place. Thank you.